Hello and welcome. My name is Shannon Kemp, and I'm the Chief Digital Officer of DATAVERSITY. We would like to thank you for joining the latest installment of the monthly DATAVERSITY webinar series, Advanced Analytics with William McKnight. Today, William will be discussing what does information management maturity look like in 2026. Just a couple of points to get us started. Due to the large number of people that attend these sessions, you will be muted during the webinar. For questions, we will be collecting them via the Q&A section. And if you'd like to chat with us or with each other, we certainly encourage you to do so. And just to note, the Zoom chat defaults to send to just the panelists, but you may absolutely change that to network with everyone. To find and open both the Q&A and the chat sections, you can find those icons in the bottom middle of your screen for those features or in the top toolbar. And as always, we will send a follow-up email within 2 business days containing links to the slides, the recording of the session, and any additional information requested throughout the webinar. Now, let me introduce to you our speaker for the series, William McKnight. William has advised many of the world's best-known organizations. His strategies form the information management plan for leading companies in numerous industries. He is a prolific author and a popular keynote speaker and trainer. He has performed dozens of benchmarks on leading database, data lake, streaming, and data integration products. William is a leading global influencer in data warehousing and master data management, and he leads McKnight Consulting Group, which has twice placed on the Incorporated 5000 list. And with that, I will give the floor to William to get today's webinar started. William, hello and welcome.
Hello. Thank you, Shannon, and welcome everybody. It's good to be here again this month, and now you get to see me too, so bonus. So anyway, this month's topic is what does information management maturity look like in 2026? So this is a topic I've presented many times, obviously not for 2026, but every time we learn that it's a little bit different and the game has changed and what happens at each level of maturity is different and growing. So I believe that my perspective of a balance of quantity and quality of projects out there. So I have a lot of projects at any point in time that I'm oversighting and advising on, but I also have roles and responsibilities inside of some of these projects, doing data governance, doing data architecture, sometimes even product implementation and so on. So anyway, it's a good balance across different industries. So what we have done here at the firm is we have analyzed on a rolling basis the last 30 organizations that we know a certain level of information about. And we have looked at what they're doing from a technology perspective, from an architecture perspective, from a strategy perspective, and from an organization perspective. And we've broken that down for you here in this presentation. And we've also correlated that to their business success. And so what I'm bringing you here today is not, I just sat here and thought about it. I just sat here and thought, well, what does maturity look like? We looked at real clients, real enterprises, doing real things out there, and we saw what they were doing and what is likely to be what you will do. I mean, unless you're at super high maturity already, all right? So what we have found is that companies, enterprises, that is, tend to move in lockstep to a certain degree up the maturity curve. And so the best thing you're going to find out about today is not where are you with maturity, but what's the next step? What does that look like? Maybe we should start to fashion our environment in that way so that we can be on that next level of maturity, which is only good for business success. All right, so this is my tech logo slide for the firm. We have worked on all these products. If you have any interest in that, let me know. So I talked a little bit about the approach. The last 30, I call them intimate enterprise projects. They're projects that we know enough about to answer our 50 questions. And sometimes those are clients. Obviously, those would be clients that we've had a long time, but they're also clients that we've had a short time that we get right in there with from day one, and we learn a lot about it. I always end up asking the client to fill in a few questions that we didn't have. Everybody's very open about it, but this is very confidential in that I'm not disclosing the companies that participated. I'm not disclosing the industries. I'm not breaking it down by industry or anything like that. And like I said, we got last 30 clients, and I'll show you where they are in terms of maturity in a minute. We have 50 questions across the spectrum of data and information and analytics topics. All right, you're going to see what those topics are. It'll be obvious as we go along here. And our belief has always been, and what has always been proven is that as you progress in certain data topics, you are progressing your data maturity. That's how we define it. Okay. So, by the way, those 30 intimate enterprise projects are probably over the last about year and a half. So it's pretty recent stuff, pretty recent. Questions keep getting updated. The topics are like data standards, centralization, master data, third-party data, data integration, data governance. You'll see as we go along here. Now, I've always used these 4 categories, and I continue to do so because I think it breaks it out pretty well. Data strategy, technology, data architecture, different from technology, and organization, different from strategy. Okay, so what you see there under each one of those are the top 4, I guess, bullets for those categories as of today. And these are some of the things that are going to be popping as we go through the results here. So some of them I might point out right now are executive awareness and alignment, where we assess if leadership understands the importance of data and if data strategy is aligned with your business goals. Data valuation, not to read them all, but let me stick on some of these. Data valuation, measuring if data is treated merely as a byproduct or as a verified asset, potentially even listed in financial statements in some of the higher maturity companies. And AI readiness, personalization for your customers, and so on. Data lineage is on there. That's become pretty important. That is measuring the ability to track data from origin to consumption, which becomes fully realized in some of the higher maturity stages. And I do talk a lot about master data management. William, why are you talking about master data management so much? We don't do that. Well, you find out that you are doing it, but maybe you could be doing it better. But I'm assessing what you're doing with your master data. That's what I mean by that, whether you have a tool or not. Okay. I do find that having a tool and being mature about that is a correlator to high data maturity, high business maturity, etc. So I will talk about that a little bit as we go along here. Now, these are the 30 companies and where they landed. The blue is their data maturity or information maturity. The red, or excuse me, the orange is their business success. So as you can see, hopefully, they're pretty well correlated. Only one client on here is 2 levels above with their business success than they are their data maturity. This is on a 1 to 5 scale. Okay. Blue being their data maturity, orange being their business success. We gauge both. All right. And I don't have time in this 45 minutes to go into the full details of what is business success to us. If it's a public company, there's a lot of information out there about public companies and how they're doing and all that sort of thing. If it's a private company, which many were, it was asking questions. It was being around the company to understand, where they felt they were and where they were in accordance to their market and so on. So anyway, I think it's pretty telling. Actually, I see another one over here that is another couple, actually, where the business success was 2 notches ahead of the data success. That's not usual. That's really not usual. As you can see, it's pretty close. It's pretty close. So the relationship between these 2 metrics is what they call in statistics strongly positive, but it follows a specific leading lagging dynamic rather than a 1-to-1 direct match. The data reveals that information management maturity sets the stage for business performance. It doesn't mean that data maturity is going to be way ahead of business maturity. As a matter of fact, how I've done this is I haven't taken the 30 companies and divided them into 5 groupings of 6 and said, okay, you're 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They clustered up in terms of how they were addressing their data issues in 5 different ways. And that's where I drew the lines in terms of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 maturity. Now, before we dive into it, this is an old proverb. You may have heard me say it. I like to say it. because it keeps us on our toes, which we must be. Beyond the mountain is another mountain. So let's take one mountain at a time. This is the 2026 mountain. When we come back next year and do this presentation, it'll be a whole new set. As a matter of fact, it just seems to be accelerating faster than ever right now in terms of technology and progress and the revamping of our organizations, obviously based upon AI. So I hope this excites you. I hope this is a sign of a great field that we are in, but it is important to keep up. It's very important to keep up. And there are many, I'll just take a minute as an aside, there are many headwinds to the careers today that there weren't before. I just saw the other day that a company declared that no code in this company should be written by a human, and no code should be reviewed by a human. Whoa. They feel that good about the code generation that's happening with AI. And did you see, I believe it was last week, Anthropic came out with a markup file for reviewing legal documents, and it tanked the software market otherwise that was in that space. And that's just one markup file from one AI vendor. There's going to be more like that. So a lot of pressure on older style software now with AI and just markup files that are doing the work of companies out there. So anyway, keep your head on a swivel. Maturity modeling. In doing this, capabilities will emanate from the presence of the items shown. Okay, that's a lot of words. What I mean is that I'm looking at, okay, are you doing this? And how well are you doing this thing? Be it master data management, data governance, data observability, et cetera. Any of the things that I'm going to be talking about. This should give you a sense of priority. And that's that main thing that I hope you take away, which is what's on that next rung for me. What is up there that other companies are doing naturally, getting to their next levels that I need to do? And you can't skip levels. You're not going to go from a 1 to a 5 overnight. It's going to take a while. As a matter of fact, my advice is that the best scenario is about 5 to 6 months to move up a notch. If you are all in on it, heck, you can even go backwards in this area. So there's no rules about it, but you should be moving your way up. Maturity levels tend to move in harmony. That means that you're not going to be so far ahead in any one of these 4 than the other 3. It just can't. It can't happen. You're going to be. You're not going to be a 5 in strategy and a 1 in technology. Can't be. You're not going to be a 4 in architecture and a 1 in organization. You need organization to have great architecture, and vice versa. So you're not going to be. You're going to have your strengths as an enterprise. Maybe you're great at technology. Maybe you focus on that. Okay, it might be 1 notch ahead of the others. You're going to get a grade or a number for each one of these 4 categories. And I will add on here that if you're a mid-size or smaller company, you can add 1 because this is geared towards a true enterprise, a bigger company. All right. So some of the aspirations that I have for you here today may not actually hold true for a mid-size or smaller company. If that's what you believe that you are, then you can add 1. Momentum is paramount. Get moving in the right direction. Because again, you can actually go down that hill. You can go down that hill. And you're going to get a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 in each of these categories. And my suggestion is that you need to be at a 3, at least, across the board. And if you are not at a 3 in any of these categories, you need to be sprinting to get there, just to survive as a company. Okay. Some of you, financial, healthcare come to mind. A 4 actually might be more appropriate for where you need to be strategic and competitive in your industry. Okay. Now, I always believe that my consulting is personal consulting. I consult to people. People work at companies, people help their companies. And I get asked about, well, how do I have professional success here if I'm in the analytics, AI, data business? Okay, here at my company. Well, it comes down to three different things. And the size of the puzzle pieces is going to vary depending upon your organization and the priorities there. But customer satisfaction, and I don't mean customer, I mean your internal customers, the ones that are maybe from the application group that are using your data. I mean that. I mean business ROI as well. This is new for a lot of you, that you need to be originating ROI for the business from your perch as a data professional. But I hope you believe that we are sitting on the gold of the organization. If you believe that, you are responsible to make some ROI out of that information. I'm going to leave that there. Come up with good ideas, though. And finally, data maturity. Data maturity. Now, you're not going to necessarily get budget for three things. Your salary isn't divided into three for these three things, but you do need to take care of these three things. So I'm thinking about you, and you need to be as well as we go forward. Now, this is your scorecard. Take out a piece of paper. That's old school, maybe just a note in your notes or whatever. But these are the four categories. List them, and you're going to give yourself a score. And most importantly, what is the next step? So if you're a 2 in data strategy, what are they doing at 3 that we need to be doing? Okay, write it in there. This is your takeaway from this talk. Now, there's going to be a number that you're going to have at the end of the talk that's going to go right there where I've circled. And I'm going to invite you, whenever you come to that number, to go ahead and put it in the chat and share with everybody. You can do it anonymously. So don't put in the little number 1, 2, 3, or 4 or 5. Put in the bigger number. Now, I'm going to give you all 4. You get 4. 4 is minimum because you get a 1 for each category. You're not going to like that. 1 is pretty bad, but you get a 1. Now, you can get a 2, 3, 4, or 5, and that will be determined as we go along here. So as we go into each of these categories, and I'm going to talk about each 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at each of these categories, which one fits you best? Put that number in there. So the best score you can get is a 20. The worst score is a 4. So keep score as we go along here. Now, maturity level 1. In the spirit of time here, I'm not going to talk about 1 for each of these categories. You get the 1. All right. If you're not at 2, you are at 1. I'm going to talk about 2. If you're not at 2, you're a 1. All right. And plus, when I get to talking about 1, I can get really cynical, and it can get kind of off on a tangent that way. And I don't want to be that way for you here today. So everyone gets this one for free. Here are some of the manifestations of being at 1. The data warehouse is a struggle, and that's the way it is and will always be. I've heard all these. Okay, software is at the end of life. Okay, got to do something, or just leave it there. I guess, I don't know. You can do things or not. Artificial intelligence is for others. Okay, there's even companies out there where no AI here. You cannot do AI here. We don't trust it. And now I do believe that that's a good policy for certain things. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think you can bury your head in the sand when it comes to AI. What else? Your infrastructure is overwhelmed. Overwhelmed is a good word for maturity level 1. You see how I can get cynical about it? Try not to. Compliance challenges. You have trouble with compliance. One vendor mentality. Oh, whatever the big blue vendor, the big orange vendor, the big this or that vendor, whatever their product is and what we need next, that's the one. That's the one. Not even considering, is it good? Is it right for us? Is it really integrated? Nope. It came from So there we go. Outdated tools. Now, maybe they're not, maybe your software is not at the end of life, but it's circa 20 years ago, 25 years ago. A lot has changed. I'm not saying they can't keep up completely, but they can't keep up completely if they're originated back then. So keep an eye on that, and you don't want to be dealing with outdated tools. High data skills turnover. And when you have high turnover in anything, you're always, stepping backwards to step forwards, right? And just imagine if you're a 30-year-old data engineer at one of these enterprises and you're all on-prem, there's no AI, you're doing BI, you don't want to be sitting there writing SQL for your career. You're not getting ahead, and those people will leave. And then you will have high data skills turnover without an enticing environment to keep younger engineers. Okay, resistance to change. Resistance to change. This might be the bottom line for maturity level 1. You can't move beyond because you resist change. It takes 25 people to say yes to putting up a new whiteboard. I'm getting cynical, but you know what I mean. Cloud costs are out of control. Maybe you did move to the cloud, but shock, it costs money. It costs a lot of money, more than we thought. Should not be a shock. There are ways to make sure it's not a shock. That's indicative of problems elsewhere. Cloud costs out of control here, and organizational silos. Okay, you might work at big company A, but it really feels like you work in this department and that's it. And we don't really interact with the other departments and that sort of thing. Organizational silos, multiple overlapping data stores. Every new application needs a new data warehouse because the old one doesn't work for this or that. And there's so much redundant data, which just creates confusion. Nothing was ever built in these organizations to use multiple times. It was built for today, for this deadline. So you end up with multiple overlapping data stores. What's the word for that? I'm missing the word, but you know what I mean. The shiny, okay, let's move on. Level 2. All right, we're getting somewhere now. We'll start with data strategy. Level 2, low maturity still a little cynicism in here now, but at least you're getting somewhere. Data is viewed as operational exhaust, not a strategic asset. At least it's viewed as something, I guess, for level 2, but it's not a strategic asset. It may not even be something that you have skills for in these enterprises. You have application skills, of course, but that doesn't mean the application developer has good enough data skills, but they're hacking it. And there you go. AI is pursued for hype rather than business value, and that cannot last. This is the shiny object problem. We're chasing AI because it's sexy and fun, but we're ignoring the fact that our data foundation, which supports AI completely, is crumbling, and you're buying tools without a business case. Success is justified with vague non-financial benefits. Vague and non-financial benefits. We get better data quality here. We get better customer satisfaction. Is that really why you exist as a company, for those things? Really? How do you translate that on to, something really important or strategic to the business or bottom line ROI? That's what I'm talking about here. That at least that you're not doing at level 2. I mean, you're justifying otherwise. So good that you're justifying, I suppose. But let's move on. Organization does not recognize the need for change. Ooh, you're not going to move on if the organization does not recognize the need for change. Focus is limited to backward-looking reporting, rear-view mirror reporting, not front understanding where the future is going. And so these organizations believe that there's nothing they can really do to impact that future. Just keep on doing what we're doing and see what happens. You've got to believe that you can impact the future. You can impact the future. You can impact the future with data. Another quote, a quote that I've had from a company that I put in this category. Our projects are justified by better decision making. Okay, too vague. Too vague. We need to start demanding. They need to start demanding how cash flow analysis works for every initiative. Okay, now let's move on to level 3. Now we're really getting somewhere. Okay, and this is again the level that I want you all to be sure you're at for data strategy and everything. Leadership acknowledges data importance. Okay, that's good. Getting somewhere, but modestly funds the foundation. Okay, so when we're getting acknowledgement, but we're not getting funding, we're getting somewhere. But obviously, we're going to need that funding to get on. AI pilots exist without a path to scale. It's what did I hear the other day about AI? Easy to build, easy to develop, hard to put in production, something like that. Yeah, and this is where these companies are. At least they're doing AI. Cloud first strategy lifts and shifts legacy problems. Good news, you're in the cloud. Bad news, you just lifted and shifted all the poor designs that you'd made 20 years ago into the cloud. And now you have those big cloud bills that you're unaware of and so forth. And you're probably not doing anything that's cloud native, that is taking advantage of the benefits of the cloud. Data value is recognized, but only within silos. Only within, okay, they did something good over there in that department with their data. Okay, good for them. But expanding that to enterprise benefits, that is not happening. Okay, standards were discussed, but weakly enforced. Okay, at least you have standards. Good. That's the start. But without enforcement, they're only guideposts that will not be followed ultimately, or when push comes to shove, or when deadlines exist, they will not be followed. And this is part of the problem of standards. They're easy to develop, but they're hard to enforce. And too many companies develop their standards, develop maybe data governance standards, but they don't have a path to enforcement. They don't understand that the company's not going to bend over backwards and say, oh, well, look at what's coming out of data governance. We got to follow that. It's going to take a process to make that happen, and perhaps some time. All right. Data strategy level 4. Now we're shifting from descriptive to predictive analytics. I can come out of my shell now because we're really getting somewhere now. We're getting up into where probably, and I didn't do the math on this, but you're probably in the top 20% here. Okay. Data is treated as a capital asset. Initiatives are prioritized using ROI and TCO discipline. Generative AI is embedded as human co-pilots. That's kind of new. That's kind of new. And by the way, I failed to mention that if there are any vendors on the call, there always are, you may want to be sure you're in a safe space. Why do I say that? Because I'm talking about the enterprises here today. And when I talk to vendors, they're out in 2028. And when I talk to enterprises, they're like back in 2023 from the vendor perspective. All right. But this is the reality of the enterprise. This is a level 4 organization is doing generative AI embedded as human co-pilots. A top 20% organization is doing that. And if you talk to vendors, everybody's doing it. Okay. So that's what I mean by the safe space. But I think that's one thing that, I find myself anyway, bringing that sort of consulting to the vendors that, okay, that's all great what you're doing, but the enterprises are over here. Let's bridge them. Let's bridge them to where you want them to go. And also, a lot of enterprises think, oh, we're so far behind. The vendor came in and he presented blah, blah, blah today, and it looks so futuristic to us. Well, it may be. It may actually be. So this presentation will tell you where you are as an enterprise compared to other enterprises, okay, not to the vendors. And moving on here, clear 3 to 5 year data roadmap is in place, and you're not doing tech for tech's sake. You're doing it for ROI's sake. You have a roadmap, so you have guide points as to where you want to go. Okay, and in second quarter, we're implementing, I don't know, master data management for our product. In third quarter, we're extending our data lakehouse into the product area, et cetera, et cetera. You have that plan. And you also have put on that roadmap. If it's a good roadmap, you have in there where you're changing technology over to AI and other new forms of technology. Okay. One quote I had from a client that I put in this category: "We are done just reporting on what happened last quarter. Our strategy is now focused on predicting what will happen next quarter." All right. And finally, data strategy level 5. Level 5. There may not be anybody on this call that's in level 5. It's pretty rare. I think we're talking top 5% or so. For us, I think we had 2 companies in the 30 that were level 5 overall, or at least averaged up to level 5, which means 2 5s and 2 4s, 4.5 rounded up. But in this category, I can't remember if anybody was a 5 in any category in particular, but this is hard. This is hard to get to. You have a strategy centered on autonomous agentic AI. Okay. Data is treated as a monetizable financial asset. Data might be on the balance sheet here. We're tracking the valuation of our information products as if they were financial instruments. We are monetization focused, and that will keep you in business. Not only the business in business, but you in business, contributing monetizably, if that's a word. Operations have become prescriptive and self-executing. Personalization is at the individual level. And executives manage, it's still minimal, but executives are managing outcomes while AI executes. That's the future. This is the future right here. This is the future. This is the near-term future. Things are happening so fast. But you got to, if you are at a 2 with strategy, you got to get to 3 and 4 before you'll get here. Okay, now let's move on to fun data architecture. Okay, now we're going to jump into level 2. Again, if you're not this for level 2, you are level 1. Okay, level 2, still some bad things going on here, but some glimmers of hope entering the picture in terms of architecture. You got fragile point-to-point integrations that dominate. Well, at least you have integrations. At least you're integrating data across the enterprise, but you're doing it in the same way every time. And there's a lot of ups and downs to that. Single legacy platforms forced to do everything. Okay, at least you have a platform. But if you're asking it to do everything, one size fits all, and not tuning, not considering other platforms that can work together, because you can't make platforms work together in this enterprise. These are problems. No visibility to data lineage, but you need that. You've recognized the need, at least at level 2. At level 1, what's data lineage? Okay, level 2, we just don't have visibility into that. You got to get there, but heavy reliance on inflexible on-prem infrastructure. So you're mostly on-prem, maybe some cloud, but you have a heavy reliance on inflexible on-prem infrastructure. Yeah, it's a big step. It's a big step to move to the cloud. And again, I said before, you don't want to lock and load your poor designs up to the cloud. But it's a step that needs to be taken. Tool sprawl creates silos and technical debt. So at least you're getting tools. At least you're getting tools. But in these environments, there's a lot of spaghetti bowl architecture going on here. One client said, our architecture is a mess of point-to-point connections. If one source system changes, 10 downstream reports break. We are building technical debt faster than we are building value. Another quote, our real data warehouse isn't the one IT built. It's the thousands of Excel spreadsheets sitting on laptops. We have no single version of the truth. And finally, a third quote, department heads are hoarding data. The mindset is, this is my data. This is not our data. So these things exist at level 2. Let's move on. Let's get somewhere. Data architecture level 3, medium to low maturity here. And again, where at minimum you need to be. Central cloud warehouse becomes a central resource. So now you've got your cloud data warehouse. You got your Snowflake, you've got your Databricks, you've got your whatever in the cloud, great. Batch processing still permeates the architecture. Virtualization is used, but only tactically, not strategically. You'll want it to be used strategically in short order here, but you're bringing it in. Brittle hand-coded ETL pipelines, that still is emblematic of level 3, that you still have a lot of that. Ungoverned data lake, at least you have a data lake, is at the risk of becoming a data swamp because everything's going in there. You're not cataloging, you're not checking for quality, and you're just sort of replicating the problems that you may have already had one time not too long ago in your data warehouse. So these organizations have warehouses, they have lakes, they have lots of pipelines. They are using open table forms. That's one thing that I will say that's, I think, or I learned, is very progressive about these organizations, is that they are using open table formats. So that is something that has moved very fast. If it's at level 3 already, it's moved pretty fast. Let's move on to level 4. Lakehouse architecture unifies data types. So you got your warehouses, you got your lakes, got them together in a lake house, all sorts of data types in there, okay, not just alphanumeric. Data fabric automates discovery and integration. The fabric has access to data enterprise-wide. Compute and storage are fully decoupled. Multimodal databases reduce complexity. So you have learned that you can put multiple models of databases, not only multiple data types, but multiple uses of that data, operational, transactional, analytical, into one database. So those databases reduce complexity, and many databases are headed that way. This is one area where we're getting more efficient, where we're reducing complexity. Mostly we're just adding to complexity out there, by the way. But this is one area where we're reducing complexity. Streaming, it gets introduced in level 4. It enables near real-time analytics. Now you are selectively streaming. You're never going, I don't think it's fully mature to go to everything streaming. Not by a long shot. But where it's appropriate, like for big data, yes, you should definitely be using streaming. Now level 5, fully optimized. Decentralized data mesh with domain ownership. Unstructured data managed with equal rigor to structured data. There's no difference in a level 5 organization. Zero copy and zero ETL data sharing. AI inference and processing happens at the edge. So if you have edge processing, and many of you do, you now have AI out at the edge. Not just flat data, not just a database, not just basic processing, but AI processing on real data. Architecture is prepared for quantum computing. One of the things that's coming, but you're preparing for that quantum future. Some of the quotes from level 5, these are always fun to hear. We have decentralized. Central IT is no longer the bottleneck. Domains own their data products, and we connect them via a federated mesh. We aren't bringing all data back to the core. We are processing AI at the edge on the device or sensor to achieve zero latency. Our data is fully discoverable. An analyst doesn't have to ask IT what a column means. The metadata and lineage are automated and available. Okay, it's fun to talk about level 5. And by the way, if some of you are level 5, you should be giving this talk. Okay, next time you can sit here in my office and give this talk because you know what you're doing if you're a level 5 across the board. Okay, now I'm going to take a quick break and I'm going to talk about some things that I think are highly mature things that didn't make it because it just wasn't that prevalent across the board in 30 companies. And here they are. Sovereign AI reflects high maturity when enterprises move Gen AI and data platforms to BYOC or on-prem even, cutting TCO a lot. You can cut TCO a lot by doing that. So some strategic BYOC and strategic on-prem means sovereign AI. And then the ROI rule, I just sort of left that out there. I probably should have said something there, but the ROI rule is when you show the ROI for what it is that you're doing. Whatever you go to do when this webinar is finished, hopefully not now while the webinar is going on, but whatever the case may be, are you driving revenue for the business? Are you reducing expenses? Are you driving revenue? How? I'm sure it's some ordered benefit away, 3 or 4 maybe from customer buys product, but you should know what that is. You should know how you're affecting that. And that is part of being a mature organization. Everybody knows. I'm going to pick on a few other things here. Good list for you here, I think, if you get these slides a little bit later. Okay, we'll make them available in a few days. Check yourself against these as well. That might be interesting. What else? Semantic layers for agents become critical when enterprises encode business meaning and constraints so that AI systems reason in domain language rather than raw schemas. What else? Data engineering. Recognizing of data engineering as the primary builders of enterprise value. That's right. Enterprise value. Data engineers are slowly but surely, I would say, being elevated in terms of their importance in enterprises. So feel good about yourself if you are that, and look for those opportunities where that is, where you see that. Okay, it's happening. It's happening out there. Active data FinOps signals maturity when organizations understand and continuously optimize the unit cost of every query, pipeline, and data product. And so you got to be on top of your costs in this new world. And a highly mature organization is going to be on top of it across the board, queries, pipelines, and data products. Now let's move on to technology. This is the third category. By now, you should have 2 scores, all right? One for strategy, one for architecture. And those scores should be something between 1 and 5. Okay, technology. Level 2, low maturity. Data quality is addressed, but only after failures. Custom scripts dominate all data work. No machine learning or AI tooling. Purchase tools. You've purchased tools. They purchase tools, but they remain unused on the shelf, as it were. Master data is handled, at least it's handled, but it's handled not in the best place, in spreadsheets and code. So here we have one client said, we have 10 different records for the same customer. We cannot effectively cross-sell because we don't know where our customers actually are. That's level 2 technology. And by the way, some things I debated whether to put them in technology or architecture. So that's not too important, but just know that, yeah, architecture and technology work pretty hand in hand. Let's move on to level 3. MDM is limited to a single domain, but you actually have MDM at level 3. And that's really a lot of the effort for any successful AI or analytics project is to have that golden record for your core domains. Once you have that, you can build on top of that. Your build out is going to be a whole lot less and much more likely to be successful. Static, rule-based data quality checks. Okay, you have data quality checks, but they're static and rule-based. Shift from ETL to ELT in the cloud. Okay, so this is very progressive for a level 3. ELT is another one of those things that has just taken off. And I don't know that statement gets any more progressive than what it is right there in level 3. You shifted from ETL to ELT. Manual, outdated data catalogs, which people don't use, people don't trust. It's not up to date. Maybe one department uses it because they keep it up to date, but that's not the most effective enterprise use of a data catalog. Machine learning experiments fail to reach production. At least you're doing experiments, at level 3, but you don't have a good path to production like you do for everything else. And you have to attend to that. Now you get on to level 4, multi-domain MDM with automated matching. MDM going hard towards being automated. And in level 4, very hard. Vector databases enable RAG use cases. This is where, again, top 20% here, level 4. This is where you are getting vector databases, the leading edge, the type A, we used to say, type A client, enabling RAG use cases, ML ops pipelines, productionize the models. So you have a path now. From 3 to 4, we moved to a path to get our models into production. That was the important step. And by the way, I'm going to recap all these levels when I'm done here shortly and talk about what's the big thing that that's going to help you and it's helped clients move from one level to the next. Okay, observability, data observability, monitoring data health. We don't write quality rules anymore. We use AI to observe the data. The system tells us when schema drift or volume anomalies occur before the business even notices. That's data observability right there. And I have a whole presentation on that topic if you want to look it up at DATAVERSITY. Automated lineage supports impact analysis. Level 4. Level 5. Top 5% of companies now. Very aspirational, but very much in your future or in the enterprise's future. Generative AI automates MDM and metadata. ML-driven observability detects unknown issues, or they would be unknown if not for the ML-driven observability. Platforms support autonomous AI agents. We're starting to see that more. Unified semantic layer aligns humans and AI, and pipelines self-heal without intervention, without the call to the DBA in the middle of the night, without the rotating pager that I used to have. Okay, the pipeline's self-healing. Now let's move on to organization, the last of our categories. So before we move on, give yourself a level, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 for technology. How are you doing on technology? And let's move on to organization. So in organization, the data is treated as an IT-only responsibility. It's level 2. Governance is absent or purely punitive. Yeah, it's there with the stick. No carrot, just the stick. Shadow IT proliferates. Forget your central standards. We'll do what we want over here, but at least there's IT. I'm always trying to find the silver lining. No defined data ownership or roles. It's all kind of built into application programmers. Cloud costs are opaque and surprising. At least you're in the cloud. Level 3, specialist data roles begin to emerge. Okay. And by the way, when we're talking level 3, I think we're probably at about the 40th percentile. So 40, 45 percentile. Most of you are here, at least, but not all by any stretch. Specialist data roles begin to emerge. You got your specialist data modeler, you got your specialist data designer, data quality person, data governance person, specialist roles within data. Governance is limited to critical reports, but at least you have it now. And you're starting to work on the biggest governance issues, working your way down. Teams deliver data, not projects. Okay, but I believe that data teams deliver projects as well as just data to some projects. But if you're delivering data well, you are satisfying that. Remember the puzzle pieces I had up earlier? The customer satisfaction. Okay, that's what it is. But you're not satisfying the ROI piece with that. Our FinOps is reactive and manual, but they're starting to recognize at level 3 that we need to do something about this. AI fear and resistance is there. It's not managed. It's unmanaged. It's allowed to proliferate, and that's going to be bad. That's going to slow down progress. Level 4, chief data officer. Now we have a chief data officer, somebody at that chief level where data can be represented. Business aligned data stewards own quality. Change management is funded. I'm talking here about organizational change management. You recognize the need for change. You recognize the need to do something about the change, and that is change management. You fund it as part of the projects. That's bringing the people along with the project itself. Data FinOps optimizes cost and performance. It recognizes that it's not there just to knock costs down, but it has to allow the technology to perform in the organization as well. And you're totally all in at this point on agile. And that's delivering value to you as an organization. Finally, level 5, governance embedded directly into platforms. New AI-specific roles are formulated, like the AI ethicist, a prompt engineer, the AI explainer. Okay, there's a whole bunch of them. Data product owners manage SLAs. So we have SLAs at this point. We're managing them. We're managing them in conjunction with the needs of the business. Chief information architect. Now, may not be at an executive level, but somebody who's very high, who represents not just data, but the information architecture. And this happens in larger organizations that are more data aware. Costs are optimized against business value, finally. Okay. This just means that you consider spending more money where you can actually get the business value. Now, let me give you a summary of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is 1. I'll skip it for the most part because it's just, you're not doing much, just more cynicism here. The key point to get to level 2, this is a summary of level 2, is to achieve business goals while increasing data maturity. Okay, I've said it many times. You don't get a budget to increase data maturity. You get a budget to achieve business goals. And while you're doing it, you achieve data maturity. You make your overall data more mature. You make your area more mature with each project. You don't just do it the same way we did it last year because I don't have to think about it. You think about it. You think about progressive ways to do that because you know that it's going that direction. Might as well be this project. And so achieve business goals while increasing data maturity will get you to level 2. Level 3, the key point is to focus on data architecture, not just data access. Focus on data architecture, not just data access. Data access is just that small piece of the iceberg that sits above the waterline. Okay, the architecture is what's important. The architecture should be screaming out, hey, here's what you need to do with this data if it's a good architecture. Not an inverted pyramid or iceberg where most of the ice is above the waterline and that's all the access that you have to, data access is hard in those environments because the architecture is weak. But you start to recognize that and do something about it in level 3. Now level 4. Level 4 is where data stops being well managed and starts being strategically leveraged with AI embedded into quality, insight generation, and operational decision making, but still largely under human supervision, even at level 4. Okay, so this is going to be aspirational for many of you. Hopefully along the way, as I talked about that next level in each area, you took some notes about, oh, that's what it's going to have to start looking like for me. Level 5, optimized and visionary. The key point here is to apply know-how and concentration or focus to enable prescriptive analytics. That is, recognizing we can get ahead of the market, we can get ahead of our customers through our use of data. Here's how we're intervening into that future, and here's how we're directing that future with these prescriptive analytics. And all these areas, and you see more detail here and things that maybe aren't to do with prescriptive analytics, but a lot of it guides us towards our our robustness and maturity with prescriptive analytics when you get to level 5 as an organization. So anytime now, throw in the chat what your number was so that your fellow viewers can have a look and see how maybe it's how they stack up against some other organizations out there. All right, that could be fun. Again, it's going to be a number between 4 and 20. So what's it going to be next year? I wish I knew. I wish I knew. I could make some investments and get ahead of the game here, right? If I knew what maturity 1 to 5 in 2027 could be, I can take a guess. We can all take a guess, but I don't know. We'll have to keep an eye on things. I know that there are things down the pike that are going to, or I believe that there are things down the pike that are going to change information management pretty radically for most of us in our careers. So in the next few years, beyond 2027, I would say these are some of the hallmarks of that future. Automated data discovery. Forget about, you just drop the data in and all the things that needs to happen to that data do happen to that data. Even sometimes the value might be gleaned out of there and incorporated into, I don't know if it's going to be a data lakehouse or a quantum database or a neuromorphic database, but the value and the importance of every piece of data can be gleaned out of it when it's introduced into the company. Neuromorphic computing advancements. Neuromorphic computing is inspired by the human brain. Instead of running instructions on a clock, it uses networks of artificial neurons that fire only when something meaningful happens. This makes it extremely energy efficient and fast for pattern recognition, sensory processing, and real-time decision-making, especially at the edge. What else? Given the rise of generative AI, those companies with strong monetizable data and a dedicated use case will be the winners. That's kind of the bottom line. That's what we're striving towards. Federated sovereignty, biological data integration. You really want to know what a customer is going to do to get to those prescriptive analytics and predictive analytics? Yeah, biodata. Data on the balance sheet, no doubt about it. And quantum computing, something that, some of us have been looking for a while. There are some green shoots in regards to this. I believe I'll be talking more about it next year, as a matter of fact. I don't want to get too far ahead in the series, but that alone would be a major change to our environments. And we're going to do it. We're going to do it because the benefits are there. We're going to do it just like we did the data lakehouse. We're going to do it just like we did the cloud. We're going to do it just like we did AI. Not like we did some other things that didn't work out. I think it's going to be something that works out. So finally, I'll leave you with achieve business goals while increasing data maturity. I know that's something to move to level 2 with, but it's something that we have to keep in mind all the way. Achieve business goals while increasing data maturity. So you don't move up by accident. You don't move up by accident. You're a 1 today. You're not going to get to 2 by doing the same thing over and over again. And what's going to happen, I believe, down the road is that somebody's going to look at your area. Maybe you're in data integration and see that, well, you're still doing integration the way we did it 5 years ago. Maybe you're not the person that we should be entrusting our data integration with because it's moved along. Okay, so speak up, step out, do the right thing for your company, know the right thing for your company first. This is a key realization for moving forward. And some of my closing thoughts on data maturity: there's more maturity in moving imperfectly than in merely perfectly defining the shortcomings. Yeah, a lot of people can look from the outside and go, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. But it's the people that say, okay, I'm going to move it forward just a little bit, that have done something. And hopefully that's recognized in the enterprise. Build your credibility. Build your credibility in the organization. Success begets success. If you don't have that credibility, you're not going to be listened to when you say, what we really need to do here is master data management. What we really need to do here is move that to the cloud. Or AI can do that. AI can do that instead of BI. Finally, don't be afraid to fail and have an open mind. There are different paths. No plateaus are comfortable for long. The resistance is not about improving the maturity level, it's the journey. The executives are not going to say, we don't want to be data maturity 5. We don't want that. No, they're worried about the journey. Okay. So clear up that path, clear up that journey. In summary, business success is correlated with data maturity. The key areas, which we went through: strategy, architecture, technology, and organization maturity go together. Achieve business goals while increasing maturity. Focus on the data architecture, not just data access. And don't forget, beyond the mountain is another mountain. So with that, I don't know how much time is left, but I'll turn it back to Shannon in case we have any questions.
Thank you so much. I'm afraid we have no time left.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. No worries.
I got on a
I'll get
roll.
these questions over to you, but thank you everybody thank you for this presentation. It's one of my favorites that you do. Thanks for everyone for participating. Just to answer the most commonly asked question, I will send a follow-up email by end of day Tuesday, just because it's the Monday is a US holiday for this webinar, with links to the slides and links to the recording, so y'all can for those who didn't get a chance to start from the beginning, can do their full assessment. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, William.
Bye-bye.